right now, like we do every single week right here on the Tony Cutillo Show, is we bring some Phillies information, because I will say this. I started doing this show here live from Pike's Pub probably about 5 months ago, and it's been going strong ever since. And it was on Tuesday nights. And Jim, I'm going to tell you something before you start coming. The Phillies audience at Pike's Pub was insane. Like this place, half of it was full with Phillies fans, and they were following the game, following every pitch, playing darts, watching the game. Everybody was loving it. Okay, so I will say this: they wanted some Phillies action, and they wanted some Phillies talk. So who better than my man Jimmy Mack? Okay, my man Jimmy get to sit here talking some Philly stuff. And I said we were talking about Juan Soto, we talk about free agency, but Jim, today, and I don't know who dropped it. I don't know if it was what reporter it was. We might know. You say that, but guess what? It looks like we're just going to continue to be a platoon in center field with Brandon Marsh and Johan Rojas. I don't know if I'm excited about that, man. So what's your thoughts on that? Are you hearing the same thing?
So I did see that too, and I can't remember who dropped the knowledge on us. But I'm excited about it if it means Juan Soto's in left. If that's what that means, if that's what that means. I actually think Brandon Marsh and Rojas is a platoon in center field for the first half of the season is fine. If they're confident that Crawford will be ready midseason. I just don't want another year of a lot of outs coming out of center field. It's an important position in the lineup, and Rojas brings an elite glove and a double-A bat, and Marsh brings a good glove and a decent bat against right-handers, but still way too much swing and miss when you look at the rest of his hitter profile. He does not have enough power to be striking out as much as really anyone in the league. His K rate was in the bottom 3% of all of Major League Baseball. You can't hit 16 home runs and say, okay, that's a good trade-off. It's not. It's terrible. So I'm fine with the two of them platooning for the first half of the season. If you just want to get Crawford another 250 at bats in Lehigh Valley under his belt, make sure he's ready. That sounds good to me. But then you need to address left field. And even if it's not Juan Soto, then it has to be another very legitimate bat who doesn't perpetuate the swing and miss that already exists in the lineup. So there's really only, I see two guys that fit that bill. One's Juan Soto, and the only other one is, I'm blanking on his name now.
Sorry, that's why we have spreadsheets.
That's right.
That's why we have spreadsheets.
That's right. And that's where I'm going up.
That's why I take it on.
I have to have it somewhere.
My man Johnson.
Profar.
Yeah, we talked from San Diego. Yes. We talked about it.
Yes.
Yep.
He's the only other guy that really hits is an outfielder who can be a decent bat who doesn't swing and miss, a lot. So, so if you're going to tell me that one of those two, and my strong preference would be Soto, then I think I'm more than okay with that.
Again, it all revolves around Soto. Talking Phillies hot stove right here, my man Jimmy Mack. My man Dante says, I agree. He's talking about the hit on Trevor Lawrence. There's too much hate on a bang bang. Exactly. We don't know how fast that they're going, right, at the speed of light. My man Bill checking in. Bill, my man, who was here for one of my first shows, shout out to one of my men from back in the day, still strong as ever, says, I read something about Harper going back to right field, Casty going to left field, and Marsh, Rojas center field, and go after first baseman in free agency because that's a better talent pool than the outfield. So, number one, Jimmy, you hear that? Or do you think that? Because I didn't even think that could even happen.
Yeah, I did not hear that, but, and I'm going to check out the talent pool now to make sure. I know there's a local guy, Christian Walker.
Yeah, I love Christian Walker, by the way.
For a couple seasons would be a
but he's just a power guy again.
He is.
He's a swing and miss guy.
A bit, yes.
Right?
But and he did get a qualifying offer, which means that you'd be getting an older guy.
Yep.
And you'd be paying a price of 2 draft picks and losing $1 million in your international.
And we don't want to do that.
No, we don't. And I've not heard anybody in the front office in Philly saying that they are looking at moving Harper back to the outfield. I think they look at first base as the way to prolong Harper's career and keep his bat in the lineup and healthy and rested, at least a lot more rested than he would be if he was in the field, in the outfield.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen. Bill, I agree. I'm not saying you didn't hear it, but what I think about it is I think that prolonging Harper's career is more important than worrying about that first base talent pool. It's not that much of a difference, right? We can make something. We still have to remember, Jim, I keep saying this, like we still have to remember that these players, that everybody we sign, these guys, they're already have the talent. Like we shouldn't. Maybe I'm crazy, but when I got a team of Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber and Trey Turner and Nick Castellanos and JT Realmuto, and you're telling me I still need more offense, that means one of two things. It means the league has caught up to you, or you've had some bad signings. And I think that comes back to the Trey Turner.
Turner was, I look at this. When I want to sign big money, long-term contracts, I want two things. I want it, first of all, the player has to be a star, number one. And then number two, the age has to work.
Yes.
And I think that's maybe where they miscalculated on Turner a little bit. Turner looks like he might, he's a slight guy. So maybe he's not just aging all that well. He's not bad. He's not a bad player. He's still a plus player. But is he the highest paid position player in the lineup type guy? I don't know that we have that guy anymore because, he doesn't steal like he used to.
Nope.
And, he's a good hitter, but he's not a great hitter. So, I think he's more of what I'd call a complimentary piece now, a very good complimentary piece.
$300 million complimentary piece.
But that's where we're at.
Ouch.
I mean, and that's where I think they miscalculated a little bit. And that's why I'm so on Soto, because he's 20, he's going to play at age 26 next year. You're going to get, if you have to sign him to a 15-year contract, the first 10 years are going to be great.
Yep.
With Turner, hey, we signed him at 30, and then his 31 and 32 years have been good, but Turner was never the hitter that Soto was anyway.
Right.
So, I don't know that you should be disappointed by what Turner's given you, but maybe our expectations were just too high given the contract we doled out. So,
I could see that. Yeah. I mean, I think it's market value, right? And this is, I think Turner was more of a Bryce was like, you need to get this guy, and I think a lot of that came into it. Now, our man JD checking in says, can Bone play left? Sign who at third? Should have kept Hoskins, he says.
Oh gosh, they're not another Hoskins guy. Listen,
yeah, I love
Hoskins couldn't play left field to save his life, and he couldn't play first base to save his life. Hoskins is a DH,
yes,
and he's a good hitter, but he's not a great hitter. In fact, he was terrible in Milwaukee this year. I mean, he hit like 215 or something, 219.
Yeah, he wasn't great.
Yeah, he's not the guy. We had him for his best years, and that's great. Let's enjoy that. He was a great guy to have on the team, a great guy to get behind, a great human being. Yeah. You know what? It was time to go. Like if you're going to be mad at Trey Turner not delivering on his contract, then you know what? Hoskins would be leaving a really bad taste in your mouth, and let Milwaukee have that bad taste in their mouth. I prefer, what we did with Harper and the other moves we can make.
Now we had some interesting developments in the pitching market, and I think two very intriguing names. Now we've been going back and forth about, Juan Soto, not Juan Soto. We go back and forth about Garrett Crochet. Do we want to give up what we need to get Garrett Crochet? And there's pros and cons. But what came out today I thought was interesting. Number one guy who I think is, if he could be recovered, and again, it's a 2-year injury, right? So he's already shown that he's almost there. Matthew Boyd, had a really good couple years, in Detroit. Lefty, right? 2.72 ERA. Very, very good, very, very good pitcher. He signed a 2-year deal with Chicago, right?
Correct. Yeah,
right?
The Cubs.
Right, with the Cubs. And then you got Frankie Montas, okay, who from Oakland, power pitcher, some control problems here or there, right? That tries to overpower, but with control, can be a pretty decent pitcher. Damn near better than Taijuan Walker, in my opinion. He goes to the Red Sox, I think, right?
No, he went to the Mets.
The Mets, that's right.
Yeah.
The Mets on a 2-year deal.
Correct.
2 2-year deals. And what were they about?
So it was 2 for 29 for Boyd with $1 million in incentives he could earn. So 2 for 30 really, and then 2 for 34 for Montas. And now we do differ a little bit on these guys because when I saw that Boyd signed with the Cubs, I have a lot of empathy for Cubs fans. That is, the Cubs right now remind me of the Phillies back in the Scott Rowland era when Bill Giles and team were saying like we're a small market team. We can't afford anybody good. The Cubs are doing that. And with Boyd, he's not a bad pitcher, but he's never been he had one good year.
Right.
One good year where his peripherals looked really strong. But when you look at his career, his total body of work, and you look at things like he doesn't overpower anybody.
No.
His swing and miss is okay.
Reminds me of Tom Glavine. Like that type of pitcher. A little
bit, but
not saying he's good as Tom Glavine.
Yeah, exactly.
Just the arm angle, the rotate.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. So, but I was curious for two things. One, I saw you're right. Both deals were 2 years, and there's always been a saying that there's no such thing as a bad 1-year contract.
No. Well,
I think inflation's hit, and now teams are thinking there's no such thing as a bad 2-year deal. And really, there's not in this fact that hey, you know what? You blink and it's over. Even if it blows up in your face, it's only 2 years. It's not going to be a long-term drag on your on your team. And they're rolling the dice. And Boyd was effective in 39 innings in the regular season, and he was effective in the playoffs. He had about 11 and 2/3 innings, I think, in the playoffs. Only gave up 1 run. So I think the Cubs are they are putting a flyer out there. They are hoping he can be fully healthy. I mean, this is a guy that's only pitched 200 innings since the COVID shortened year. So he has a bunch of injuries. I don't think it's a bad deal, but I do think they're kind of crossing their fingers and hoping they can, they get lucky, going cheap.
I can see
which
that.
Again, as a Cubs fan, I would be pulling what little hair I have left out of my head because it's second city, third largest market, right?
Yep.
They should not be, they should be in on Corbin Burns, but they're not.
No,
they won't be in on. They should be. They
You're
should
right.
be talking to Soto. They're not.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
They're all about they're not. And my man Joe checking in says Montas was great in Milwaukee. Pitching coach helped fix some things. Now, I will say this: Montas for me. I would so rather have him than Taijuan Walker.
So Montas is interesting in that he's got better velo.
Have a good one, man. Be careful.
But I just for giggles, I decided to say, okay, so these are two guys that got a little bit more than I thought based on the seasons they had.
Okay. So
you know what? Let's go back in the Wayback Machine and look at Taijuan Walker when what he looked like in 2022. Before the Phillies signed him to the 4-year, $72 million deal.
Ouch.
So when I look at things like, barrel percentage, hard hit rate, average exit velo, they're kind of the same guy. All three of them. Yes. And this is Walker coming off of a good year.
Yeah, he was like 12-9 or 12-6 or something,
exactly,
right?
He had about a 3.5 ERA with the Mets. So, that was a pretty good season for him. And, we all know what happened since, but so there's a little bit of there's a risk on the standpoint of both the Cubs and the Mets here, but the Mets have a big need because they have 3 pitching starting pitching spots they have to fill. So I think they're looking at Montas and saying, hey, if he could be a number 5 and be better than he was last year, then we're fine. One other interesting thing that so Montas and Snell and Kikuchi all signed since last week they're all Boris guys.
Yeah, all Boris.
So Boris, he learned his lesson last year.
Yes, he's like, I'm setting the market.
Exactly.
That's what he's doing.
And there was an interesting comment when Montas signed with the Mets. People were like, well, this must be a package deal. He gets Soto too. But I'd be like looking at the opposite. I think it's a disincentive. I'm not that impressed with Montas. Now, he said he did have one very good year in Oakland. But that was like, I don't know, 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a while ago.
So, since then he's been more up and down, and I don't know that he's fixed. Like you could look at a guy like Sean Manaea, like one of our listeners.
I was just going to mention him.
Yep. So Sean Manaea, he changed something up.
Yes.
And he was night and day from first half to second half.
Stud.
I don't know that I trust that Montas has done something like that just by going to Milwaukee and hearing a new pitching coach voice. I didn't see that there was anything like really different between the Cincinnati version and the Milwaukee version of Montas last year. He was in a little bit of a better ballpark to pitch in Milwaukee. Cincinnati's ballpark's a bandbox. So
yeah.
So Milwaukee, I think it's a great family field in Milwaukee now or something like that. That is a little easier place to pitch. So that in and of itself may be the reason that he was maybe a little more effective in Milwaukee. But I don't want either of these guys on the Phillies. I look at them and think it's potentially another Walker.
I'll tell you what, man. That the Walker thing just bothers me. I think the Walker thing bothers me a lot because I was actually pro Taijuan Walker. When everybody told me, dude, you're crazy, I'm like, no, man, listen, I could sit here and watch. His velocity was up that last year. I'm like, I just need him to be a number 5. Like, that's it. I never thought him to be Adam Eaton. I mean, he was that bad. Now, our buddy Bill says Shane Bieber is an interesting name, former Cy Young winner. What do you know about Shane Bieber?
So Bieber is interesting. He's coming off Tommy John. I think he pitched like 1 or 2 games last year before he got hurt. He is somebody I'd look at, but he probably, mid-season return would be my guess. And I'm wondering does his velocity come back? Because he's a guy that early in his career, when he was a Cy Young guy, threw much harder than he did before, the last couple of years before he got hurt. So, I wouldn't, again, as a 5th or 6th starter, so to speak, a depth guy, would I be interested? Sure. Could you give him, maybe like a 2-year called pillow contract to, let him land softly and see what happens? Sure. And maybe even give him an opt-out where if he really blows people away, he can go and make some real money.
Yeah.
Would I be interested in that? Yes, I would. But it would have to be somewhat team friendly and somewhat player friendly, like giving him the ability to get out.
And we've seen that before especially with pitchers, right? Who was the other guy who just signed?
Cutillo?
No, Trevor Bauer signed, right? He signed like a 1-year deal or something with somebody. Or I remember seeing it about a week ago. It was Anthony
really?
Did the show.
I saw that rumored, but then somebody said fake news.
Oh, it was fake news. They got me then. They got me. See, that's why I got to listen to the insider. They got me.
Well, I just wondered if it happened. If it really happened today.
Well, when I saw your face, I'm like, yo, I just got hoodwinked, didn't I? I got the wrong Shefty.
Listen, I'll check it on a break. But I don't think that was real.
Listen, maybe it wasn't. You don't know what's real, what's not real anymore, man.
Yeah,
it's like
exactly. I can't see anybody signing Bauer.
No, I was surprised. I was surprised, and it's funny you say that because I had I talked back and forth with Gary Sheffield Jr. and we were talking on socials last week and actually this morning, and that's what he said. He's like, man, he's like, I can't believe anything. He's like, and I said, look, I was like, unless it's coming from Nightingale, unless it's coming from even Heyman, I'll take Heyman. Yeah. Okay. Jason Stark is a guy, right? Buster Olney, unless it's coming from one of Jeff Passan, right?
Yeah.
If it's coming from one of those guys, I'm in. But after that, forget about it, man, because you just can't trust any of this news anymore.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Too many hot take guys out there.
Yeah. Everybody wants to be the guy, right?
Yep.
Everybody wants to be the guy. Everybody wants to be the guy. Now, listen, Jim. Again, we're talking Phillies hots over here. Well, man, Jimmy Mack live right here on the Tony Cutillo Show, live from Pike's Pub. 455 2nd Street Pike. Everybody tuning in online. As always, make sure that you are subscribed. Listen, the big audience right here is online. I'm actually starting to get comments right now. And make sure you get over to the Facebook page for Pike's Pub. Just changed up their entire menu. They have more entrees now, more specials. I'm telling you right now, you will not find a better bacon cheeseburger for $9 for fries around. You got to get it right here. But Jim, the rumors, right? Like, it brings it right back to Juan Soto. All these Red Sox rumors now. All the it kind of came out of nowhere. People are saying they're the guys that need to make the push. This is the Boston Red Sox, the lineage. Maybe it's me, but it just seems like a fit, man.
The Red Sox?
Yes, it just seems like the perfect fit.
Well, there's a need for that's for sure. But if I'm Juan Soto, here's what would scare me. It's like Boston has just spent 5 years as a quote unquote small market team, almost. A lot of really poor finishes.
Okay.
Was that ownership really invested, or am I going to be Mike Trout up in Boston, where I'm I'm the guy and I don't have a team around me that's capable of winning? So that's where I'd be most concerned. I also heard rumor mill with Soto that, that Toronto says they'll make the biggest offer of any team. Now, I still think that doesn't work. I don't see him going north of the border. But I still looked into it anyway, because it's like, I wonder what the Canadian tax situation's like.
That's a good point too.
So it's not great for athletes, and athletes, unlike CEOs, can't hide their money. They're getting taxed at the highest tax bracket on every dollar.
That's a good point.
They can't take stock options. They can't, and get capital gains tax rates and things like that. That all of the rich CEOs and executives take advantage of here in the States. The other, it's a similar situation in New York. Because you have New York state taxes, which are a heck of a lot higher than Pennsylvania state tax. And then you have New York City tax, just like, Philly has a wage tax too, but I think New York's is a little higher. So I think you look at the tax situation, and Pennsylvania's a lot better. And if he likes New York, he can still, he can do the James Harden thing. We won't get too upset, right?
Exactly.
Let him take the train up, or, a helicopter up, every now and then on off days. You can hang out in New York on an off day.
Yeah, why not? Go make it rain for a little bit. What I mean?
Exactly. Let him, not saying Juan Soto, that's his game, but, he can, New York's close enough that you can still take advantage of everything New York has to offer while still playing here and saving more of your money.
That's a good point, man. See, that's the thing. I don't ever think about the financial ramifications when it comes to, the tax laws. And, and it's just such a big deal, isn't that why people want to go to California or something all the time?
Well, that's where, that's why I think Ohtani structured his contract the way he did, because I guarantee the day he retires from the Dodgers, he leaves California, starts getting those deferred payments, is a resident somewhere else, where they're not getting California state tax rates. He moved to Texas, or moved to, somewhere where there's no state tax. But it is a big deal. These athletes lose a lot of money in these, playing in New York or playing in California, because of the high tax rate compared to a lot of other major league cities.
That's a big deal, man. That's just something to keep an eye on. Now, looking at this all as a whole, Jim, I'm not going to ask your prediction. We're talking about that, but any other names that have kind of creeped up, because you never know. Sometimes these names come out of nowhere. Any other names that have creeped up, you say, I didn't even think this about him.
So here's a guy who's interesting in the same vein as Montas or Boyd.
Okay.
Walker Buehler. Yeah, so now Walker Buehler is, had, again, a terrible season, partial season, coming back from his second Tommy John. His velocity's down a little bit. Yep. His swing and miss and whiff rates are down a ton. His walk rate's up a little bit, but is that rust? Is it something that could come back, from, with a little bit more time and experience and, distance from the injury? I would say yes. And I think again, here's another guy in the playoffs who really, really delivered.
Yes, he did.
So, that's a guy that, obviously there's probably 10 teams that would be interested in Walker Buehler, and again, offering like a pillow type contract where, it's kind of team friendly year one, and then gives them an out to go somewhere else if he really performs, but then gives him security for a second year if he doesn't perform. Let's give him the option to opt out.
That's intriguing.
That's a guy.
That's name's intriguing to me.
Yeah, his regular season was really bad. It was not good. And second Tommy John, that's risky. That's there's not a huge track record of guys coming back from a second Tommy John. But I think if anybody can do it and still be an effective pitcher, I think Walker Buehler is a guy worth taking a chance on. I would take a chance on him, man. 10 times before I took one on Boyd or one on Montas.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Now, what about money, though? Do you think it would be the same kind of structure?
So I think it would be a decent amount of money, yes.
Okay.
I look at a guy like Tyler Maher last year with Texas.
Yep.
I think he signed a 2-year, like $25 million deal, where in year one, he almost didn't pitch at all.
Wow.
He barely came back and pitched. It's really, they're giving him $20 million for year 2.
Okay.
That's a guy who's, who I'd take a chance on a Walker Buehler, because he's been, his track record prior to being injured was a heck of a lot better than, almost anybody on the market.
That's a good point. And it is a guy from big market team.
Yep.
Right. The big stage doesn't scare him. Right, so that's the kind of guy that you want. Now, I want to ask you about these two guys that they're both on the same team. Not about for Philly, but just Major League Baseball talk in general. Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt. Now, a lot of talk. Are these, in your opinion, have we seen the best of both of these guys?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, by
far, right?
If I was going to take a chance on either of them, it would be Arenado.
Okay.
Because only from the standpoint of his glove is still elite, but I don't want him. For the money he's still owed, even if the Cardinals paid a bunch,
yep.
And I know the Rockies are still paying part of that contract through the end.
It's crazy.
Yep. But his bat has just fallen so.
Oh, he looked
far.
He looked bad last year.
Yeah, 16 home runs, 70 RBIs for a guy who's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
he's
people don't realize that, by the way. They don't realize he's a Hall of Famer.
Absolutely,
you know why? Because he played in Colorado.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yep.
But he's absolutely a Hall of Famer.
Yep, 100%.
Did it with the bat, did it with the glove.
Yep.
He was on a trajectory at some point in his career where people started thinking, could he surpass Schmidt? And it's like the answer is no. But there was time, probably 7-8 years into his career that people started thinking that.
It's crazy, man. That's crazy. Bill checking in says the Braves and Yankees interested in Buehler too.
Sure. I'm
right.
sure the Mets are interested. I'm sure that the Dodgers are even potentially interested in bringing him back.
That's
the Dodgers are going to have like 8 pitchers that are all pitched 95 innings next year.
That's so crazy, man. It is absolutely nuts. It is. Like we talked about, December 9th, right? Winter meetings.
Yeah. Yep.
It's going to be exciting. And here's the best part. Live right here from Pike's Pub, it's 3 out of 4 Mondays. So next Monday is my Monday off, right? Which means, whether it's live here or remote, Jimmy's going to have some information on these winter meetings because they're going to be like a weekend session before our next show, man.
Absolutely.
I can't wait.
It'll be great to have that all behind us. Rumor has it that the Juan Soto signing will happen.
Yep.
Either before or during the meetings. So, the rest of the market will start falling into place at that point, because guys like Teoscar Hernandez or, other outfielders, they can't sign until Soto signs, because basically anybody who doesn't get Soto, who's really looking for an outfielder, is going to, will then be interested in, Teoscar and others. So
what a playoffs he had. What a season he had. Honestly, from the All-Star game to the home run derby to I'll say this before we take a break, but Adam checking in. What's up, Tony? Jimmy says days off. What's that? Listen, Adam, I get it, bro. Listen, man, I'll work every day of the week if Matt wants me to. You know what I'm saying? But all honesty, I bring up Teoscar because I used to do this thing, these home run props, and they were fun. And Teoscar was always on my and here's the thing, full transparency, I never watched them play. And then I was like, wait a minute, if I'm gonna be betting on these guys, I watch everything, every other sport. I need to watch this guy play, right? So with T-Mobile, I have T-Mobile, you get the MLB package for free every year, right? So I watched the Toronto games and I was watching this guy and I was like, dude, this dude's got some unhinged power. Like and he looked like he was always into the game, like a student of the game, was followed. I love that guy. Like, I would love to have him in Philadelphia.
So again, a little bit too much swing and miss, unless we change the complexion of the lineup.
Yep.
But as far as like having a good power bat and a good guy in the clubhouse, supposedly the guy's phenomenal teammates, loved by everybody.
Yep.
So I like a lot of things about him. I just don't think he fits the current roster if there's no other changes. If you just say we're going to plug him into left field, then I'm like, well, unless a pitcher just can't stay sharp through the gauntlet of what the lineup would be, I just think he's another guy that could swing and miss a lot. But, would I prefer him over Brandon Marsh and somebody else platooning in left field? Absolutely. We could do a lot worse than Teoscar. And he's, the predictions for him are somewhere in the 3 years for 22 to 25 million.
That's nothing.
It is nothing.
How old is he, by the way?
He's in his early 30s, 32, 33, somewhere in there.
You know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of coming to a team like Nelson Cruz.
Yeah, yes.
Right? And just mashing the ball, like in Seattle. Yep. Just or Texas. Just let me mash the ball, right? Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. If you told me, like, you're really intriguing me about Walker Buehler, right? If you told me we're not going to trade the prospects for Garrett Crochet, and you know what? The consolation prize of Juan Soto is we're going to sign Walker Buehler, we're going to sign Teoscar Hernandez, and we're going to rely on our young talent to come up mid-season. I think I'm happy, man. Am I crazy?
So no, I don't think you're crazy, because I think the young talent is good enough.
That's what I think.
It's really going to inject a lot of energy. Kind of like Paul Skeens did with Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Made him a contender.
Or from the Mets.
Yes.
Exactly.
Vientos. Yes.
Right?
Vientos. Yeah, absolutely. So I could see that. Crawford is, I can't wait to see him in Philly. A guy who has good bat to ball skills, great speed, great defender. It's really just what the lineup needs. But is he going to be, is he really going to be able to perform from day one? You can't really expect that of a rookie. You hope that's what happens, but you can't expect it.
No, you definitely can't. You definitely can't. Well, Jim, as always, man, another stellar hot stove talk. And I will say this, not to get like, all sentimental and stuff like that, but, we always talk about, listen, Thanksgiving was last week, tremendous holiday. We should be giving thanks every day, in my opinion. I say every day above ground's a good day, right? So if I woke up, I'm having a good day. I could deal with whatever. But sometimes, like I said, you meet people, right? I mean, listen, you heard my spiel earlier. No disrespect to Jason Kelsey and these guys, but they don't need your support. Like, they don't need, like, there's people out there that are very highly intellectual individuals that are so passionate about their sport and their teams that they dive into this, man. And Jimmy's one of those guys, and I'm lucky enough. I mean, God, Jim, what it was like, been like 5-6 years, like,
probably
right
on Facebook,
or something.
It's
crazy,
yeah,
right, from the PI days to the, it's just nuts. And then here we are, and now he's the guy for our Phillies news, which is great, man. So, Jim, I just want to thank you as always, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tony. This is so much fun.
And make sure you subscribe to YouTube page, because every week these segments, I didn't get the podcast page up though. That's coming. All one thing at a time, right? But I do put these individual segments on the YouTube page. So listen, you want to go back and listen to all these names that Jim talked about, and you just go to a YouTube page. It has its own separate playlist, and boom, you hit it. You can listen to the 10-15 minute interview, man. It's fantastic.